What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you, Jimmy Smith, Ryan Moody, our MMA show. We try to give you the fastest breakdown in the business. UFC Fight Night, Lee versus Oliveira is in the books. I guess we'll start with, we're getting some new layers of the onion with what's going on. Obviously, we felt as MMA fans, things were going to proceed forward with the Performance Institute, though we're learning, Jimmy, that may not exactly be the case as we originally thought, right?
Yeah, it looks like the Nevada State Athletic Commission is postponing everything until they have a meeting on the 25th, I believe, if I'm getting the date right. And from then they'll decide. I don't know what they're going to find out before the 25th that's going to be any better. That's only 11 days away. So a lot of people think that might be it for even the PI Institute fights because you need commission for that. One of the issues, if you've ever been around fighting, commissions skew pretty old. It's a really vulnerable population to this stuff. So it may just be in the interest of the health and safety of their own people. They might not want to do a PI show or anything like that. So we're not going to know anything until the 25th.
Changing gears just a little bit. We had talked, and honestly, not to toot our own horns here, I didn't hear a lot of media talking about how the empty arena would actually play into this fight card. If you didn't get a chance to look at it, I sent a clip over to Jimmy. Maybe I'll put it down in the video here. John Cena came out. SmackDown had no crowd on Friday, and he came out and talked about the challenge of this, the skills, having a live audience, and how it would be weird and uncomfortable. And I realized to a lot of people, there's obviously a major difference between wrestling and MMA, but I think it's still entertainment. And as entertainers, they have the right to kind of share those same feelings. And one of the things that really took me back is he said he wouldn't be strong without the crowd. And when we talk about fights, a lot of that strength, in a way, does come from the crowd reaction. Does have the crowd from, does come from having the crowd there. Words are tough. So, Jimmy, I'm watching this whole card. I know you don't, but I'm having those sentiments in my mind.
I watched this one front to back.
Wow. Look at Jimmy Smith being a...
Well, the deal is...
it could have just been you.
Yeah, well, the deal is I'm stuck at home anyway. So, might as well check them all out, and I did. So, I did see the entire card.
So you're right there with me, right? I mean, we're 9 fights, decision. I'm thinking like, man, hey, maybe there's something to this. You know, when he talked about the biggest star in the event, the biggest star is basically what he was saying is the fans, is the WWE universe, is the UFC fans. And I'm telling you, I could not think that resonated very well with me as I watched this card play out. I get it. The fights were there, and we're obviously going to talk about them in a minute, but I really felt something was missing. We both talked in the beginning that we thought this could be a good thing. I don't know that it was as good as I thought it would be.
Yeah, it seemed as though there were flat performances, and we've seen this before in the UFC. This isn't like this is the first time, although this did, I believe, tie the record for most decisions in a row in the UFC. It's one of those things where maybe it had nothing to do with there not being a crowd there, but the fights did seem flat. I mean, they seemed not bad, but flat in the beginning. Only the last 3 really delivered. And we can tie that into perhaps not having that energy. It was so weird to see like their hand gets raised and you saw so many of them turn to the cage, like wanting to jump up and like, wait, there's nobody here. You know, and it was almost like this, oh, wait, yeah, I can't do that. Or wanting to acknowledge a crowd, and there was no crowd. It was just a really weird setting, and you can't say whether or not it had an effect, but we did get a ton of decisions, a ton of fights going the distance.
Yeah, I think I noted it a lot with, I'm not sure, one of the girls in the beginning, I'm not exactly sure who, really, as soon as she left the tunnel, eyes wandered a lot, looking through the building. And I think that's kind of when it hit me like, wait a second, something is different here. So, okay, 4 minute, 40-second mark. We'll get to the fights. Don't fret. We're going to start here. Francisco Trinaldo, John McDessie. You know, man, this was a weird fight. I will say, for what it's worth, Trinaldo did a great job at pushing McDessie back, used combos, cut angles, didn't really switch stances much. I thought Tornado kind of started to fade late, but McDessie would just circle. And this is really a fight that we talked about would probably be a brawl. And it really turned out to be anything but. Tornado really counterfought the whole time. I mean, sure, he was getting kicked, but stayed calm, controlled range well. And I'll also say it, I really was thinking to myself during this one, man, live scoring might help me with this if McDessie knows he's behind, 2 rounds going into the final one.
He had to know. I mean, he was getting bullied. The thing about Trinaldo, and the reason I didn't pick him, I thought the years in the fights are going to catch up with him eventually. I think he's 41 years old, been through some wars, but a tough guy, strong guy, likes to move forward, likes to test his power, built like a brick shithouse, pardon my language, but he's a strong dude for this weight class. And so I thought that would eventually wear down, that a younger, maybe sharper fighter could take advantage of that. Nope. He took real estate the whole time. Penny agrees, he moved McDessie back the entire time. That's how this guy wins fights. He's not a technician. He's not a brilliant counterpuncher. He's not super sharp and crisp. It's walk you down, move forward, and throw punches. Whether countering or leading first, the guy hits hard. And that was his strategy from the beginning, and it worked. And McDessie had no answer for it.
We move up. And this is when I really know we're in trouble. If this one was going to decision, I thought we were really going to go to Decisionville, population us. Nikia Krylov, Johnny Walker. Man, let me tell you, Johnny Walker comes out, heavy knees, angles, really works the clinch, does good. Krylov, I thought, had a very good game plan. It looked like he was going to slow the fight down, take the aggression out. He was taking a little bit of damage, but, you could tell, especially the end of round 1, kind of the end of round 2, Walker wasn't taking advantage of things. He needs a tactical fight plan. The explosiveness, the angles, those are great. I mean, those are guaranteed highlight packages, okay? But when they don't work, this is what you get. He did very little to finish the fight, and he had opportunities. I get it. He is a great athlete. He's kind of those 1 in a million guys. But here's the thing. At the UFC level, I feel you have to throw things with intention. You can't just throw a random heavy shot and hope it connects, at least to be a consistent, true contender. And that's, I think, what we're seeing. I even went back after this fight, because we'll talk about it in a minute. We had a little bit extra time after this one because we did finally get that finish. I went back and watched Johnny Walker and Corey Anderson. That fight and this fight are almost carbon copies of each other, and that can't happen. You can't follow up a bad performance with a bad performance for the same reasons.
This is the first time someone's been able to take him into the deep water and win a decision. He tends to, Johnny Walker, win or lose quickly, right? He had lost before that, once in the first round, 2 in the second round, and then, of course, the one you were talking about, Corey Anderson, that was in the first round as well. It's one of those things where I saw a talented, explosive, limited fighter. The problem is Johnny Walker, where he is in his career, he's running into guys that can take advantage of those limitations. And if he doesn't right the ship, and he's 27, which is not a spring chicken, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Just being funky and tall and explosive and unorthodox is great. It's not going to get you to the elite level at 205 pounds. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Gyms are full of guys with physical gifts or weird builds, or like they do something spectacular that guys aren't aware of, but they're limited. They don't have a big toolkit. They generally don't get far. Now, Walker has gotten far and that he's had some UFC success. I think we've seen his ceiling with the skill set he has. Not that he can't get better. Not that he can't be coached out of this to some degree, although, he was coached at TriStar for this fight, and he looked like pretty much the same guy. If he doesn't change this, he's just another physically talented, unorthodox guy who got beat by the elite. And this, now he's starting to like get in that zone. I want, Corey Anderson, Nikita Krylov, they're right around that level. They're, top 10 fringe guys. Corey Anderson, of course, higher, but I'm not going to get that title shot fighting the way he's fighting with the skill set he's showing.
Yeah, I agree about that completely, but I would also make the point that he's setting a blueprint to get himself beat too, and other fighters and coaches are going to look at that. So we move up here. This is one of, just really a weird issue as well. So we had talked about this in the beginning, quick finishes, how fighters could react. Moicano gets the back in less than a minute, body triangle, rear naked choke, and then gets up and just starts yelling about how he was looked at. They cut away to a highlight package. I know you listen with the sound muted, but I actually listened to some of the commentary. They cut away to a highlight package. You hear him screaming in the background. In the end, he ends up calling out Paul Felder, but nothing's really explained. And I'm just going to be honest with what my interpretation was. It sounded like it wasn't clear to him, or he didn't have a firm understanding of why no one was there. I fully understand that may have been lost in translation, but it seemed like he was questioning why no one was there. Like, at this point, how could he not know? Don't say weird. The C word, Jimmy. Don't say it. I know it's hard. I won't. There we go. Okay.
Look, here's the deal. We don't know what was going on, and I mute the commentary, so I don't know. Was Bisping ask him about it? Because I would, as a commentator, I'd go, what's going on with that? You seem upset at the end. Well, what's going on? He didn't ask him? Because I saw the confrontation, obviously, when he kind of leaned over him. They had to be separated, and Carnero seemed pissed. It wasn't a two-way street. It seemed like Hadzovic was like, taken aback by it, and Carnero was just in his face. But did he ask him about it?
Yeah, and then he transitioned right to his family. That's what was so weird. He said something, and I'm paraphrasing here, he came out, and no one was there, and his family isn't there, and he had just had his child, and he dedicated the fight to his kid, and then he went into a Paul Felder call-out. It was so weird. I don't mind. I mean, I guess I do. It's professional athletics. I know that you're going to see emotions boil over. It was just such a weird time to see those emotions boil over because we didn't really see what brought it on. We didn't really see the whole picture of what was happening as they cut away to a highlight package. But because there was no crowd, we sure heard the anger in the rage. And then we never really got like a complete, this is why this happened. It was just like they had some weird visual exchange where he looked at him weird, and it led to that. And I will say, for one thing, security in a kind of in a way that you don't normally see two guys go at each other. Security was really quick to get in there and separate them. So clearly they knew there was a bigger deal. Yeah, they props to them for being in there and being prepared.
Also, security doesn't have to worry about anybody on the outside of the cage in that situation.
True.
So
limited.
They might have the same, right? Limited. I mean, there's no fan, so the people that normally might be guarding the door to keep people from getting in was able to jump in and separate those guys. Let's keep that in mind. They have more resources because they're not dealing with crowd. The thing is that, and what I'm trying to get nailed down is Bisping asked him about the confrontation, and he kind of went on a rant about his family.
That's why I said I think it gets lost in translation. As soon as he said that, he kind of started to echo like weird emotions that no one was there, and he looked at him strange. It is very, very strange. I don't know if it wasn't translated right or whatever it was.
Well, whatever you think, Carnero looked sharp. I mean,
yes.
Had him, took his back, rear naked choke, arm under the neck, and we got our first decision in 10 fights. By the way, just going back, I picked wrong first two fights, starting to get on track. So I was also thinking, like, not only all these decisions, man, main card, I'm 0 for 2. So in two ways, I was thrilled about this one. Number one, that he got the finish. Number two, that Carnero was the first one I picked to actually win on the main card. But you look for those things where how's he going to do at 55? Now, Hadzovic is not a huge 55er. He's not a grappling centric 55er, and I think that's an important distinction here. 55 isn't full of great wrestlers. There are a couple. I would say Kevin Lee's an excellent wrestler for MMA. Gregor Gillespie is a great wrestler, and Khabib, but it's not full of them. So it's easier to move up in that weight class and have some success as a naturally lighter guy. There isn't the big guy that's going to hold you down. 70's full of those guys. So I think Carnero showed, some traits that are going to help him at 55. I think he could be, I don't know about a contender just because it's so stacked, but he could be a factor in the top 10. And Felder, who knows if Felder fights again, that level's a good call out, right? Number 7, 8, 9. I think it's a great call out.
We move up to either a guy that listened to the podcast or a ref that did, because Gilbert Burns and Damian Maia, I'll tell you right now, this fight, if you go back and listen to the pre-show, we could not have called this fight clearer. I thought that Gilbert did a great job, came out, put a little pressure. Maia did exactly what we expected, kind of pushed him back against the cage, shot the single leg. You mentioned the grappling level here on display. I thought Gilbert seemed exceptionally prepared for the transitions. He gets the knockdown just with a jab, I believe, a straight. Puts his hands up in the air to get the style points. Actually, I think he thought the fight was over, but I called it as a ground and pound finish. The ref doesn't step in, and I will say that Gilbert Burns respectfully went down to a knee and ground and pounded the fight, and you could tell afterwards that he had really fought somebody that he idolized and looked up to, and probably didn't feel particularly good about what he had to do to end that fight after. I can get both sides of it. It looked kind of a flash knockdown. And then
he did look clear-eyed, Maia.
He did
look clear-eyed to me on the ground, yeah.
But he did crumble like a, what did you call it earlier? A brick shithouse?
Yeah, let's say that.
Okay, he did crumble. And then afterwards, we get an incredible call out. Take my money for Gilbert Burns versus Colby Covington.
Oh, yeah, that would be a great one. Damian Maia, first off, what surprised me too is the graphic under Gilbert Burns said Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's literally a world champion. He took worlds. So I thought they were kind of underselling him. And once again, I listened with the sound off. Maybe they said that, but the graphic just said Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I'm like, I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Gilbert Burns is a world champion who smoked Cron Gracie in the finals. Like, he's several levels better than that. So, but it's so interesting how you said he was prepared for transitions. Exactly. Because to me, you saw both guys' strengths. Damian Maia has an old school game. Take you down, pressure, pass, good position, basic submissions. That's what he's great at. Burns, when they were in those positions, you could tell he was like, oh gosh, like having a truck on top of you. I remember Frank Mir said one time, he goes, I thought I knew jiu-jitsu, then I rolled with Damian Maia. And I found out I didn't know anything. You saw Gilbert Burns in those traditional pressure positions having trouble with Damian Maia. Took his back, wasn't able to get both hooks in, but able to fight out of those positions. It was in transition. When he briefly went deep half guard, went underneath the leg, and those tricky things, he was a step ahead of Damian Maia because he's better at that kind of game than Damian Maia. So it's funny, you saw the strengths of both guys, where when it comes to like traditional pressure, slow you down, crush you, and finish you, that's Damian Maia. When it comes to the kind of new school explosive transition game, Gilbert Burns was a little bit ahead and was able to pop back to his feet, and that's when he got the hook knockout. Impressive stuff from him, though. Very, very impressive. This is a guy, if his hands keep getting better, as good as he's on, as phenomenal as he is on the ground, great wrestling, he's definitely a factor in the division. But you could tell he beat one of his idols tonight.
Yeah, he's becoming a very real dual threat in a division that doesn't have high-level dual threats. You're either high-level striker, high-level ground game. Very rarely do we see both of them gets mixed. And to this point, I will say, if you have Damian Maia on your back and he has one arm across your neck, a lot of people, I would say 90% of the division, may not get out of it. Gilbert Burns got out of it just because, like you said, I don't think that he's actually better than Damian Maia on the ground. I think he thought ahead and he knew what Damian Maia was going to do before he did it and allowed him to have escapes, allowed him to beat transitions, which Damian Maia, honest to God, is probably not used to. He's probably the guy in the gym that goes and just, has to struggle to find somebody to work with because he's one of the best in the world,
Well, also Gilbert Burns, younger, different mentality, maybe a little bit more energy for those transitional positions. I'm telling you, when I grapple now, I'm 42. When I get good position, I'll joke with guys underneath me. Like, I'll get side control and crush them and be like, dude, I'm 42. I'm not going anywhere, dude. Forget it. You want to transition, you got to make me work. It's like a joke to me. But style-wise, Damian Maia, a little bit older. So Gilbert Burns, a little bit more explosive, a little bit more physicality when he needed it on the ground.
So would you say that you get on top of somebody and say, listen, dude, I'm 42 years old. I'm built like a brick shithouse. I'm not going anywhere.
I ain't moving. You're going to have to move. I'm not moving. I'm stalling my ass off for the next 6 minutes. So if you can get out of this mount, you go ahead. I joke with people all the time.
there was ever a time to cue Penny, now would be the time. But she's not listening.
She's not listening right now.
All right. Main event, Charles Oliveira, Kevin Lee. I didn't listen to the commentary. I hope they made a whole bunch of racket about Kevin Lee coming in heavy. I'm not going to beat him up too bad. I let Charles Oliveira do that for me. But I will say, all the talking that Kevin Lee does about chasing titles, preparation, doing things the right way, you gotta follow through on them. And I know in Brazil it's difficult to cut weight, and I know that he didn't offer any excuses, and that's fantastic, but he's still a professional and should be held to that level regardless of what's going on. He comes in heavy. I saw a bigger Kevin Lee in the cage tonight. I thought that Charles Oliveira did a very smart job, came out fast, picked his shots, used his reach, and then, kind of had to deal with Kevin Lee coming back heavy. A back and forth fight. At the end, though, a very odd exchange where we see Kevin Lee tap and then, clearly tap, I thought, and then later argue that he didn't tap. So this one has a I guess you could say it's a controversial finish, but only if you're asking Kevin Lee if it was controversial.
I think he went out. I think he legitimately didn't remember tapping because he seemed confused. It wasn't like he didn't go. He when he was looking, I think it was Beltran, the referee, Mike Beltran. He seemed to be a little confused. And I remember when they were about to raise their hands, Mike was talking to him and laughing. Like, dude, you don't remember. He didn't seem like he was upset. It seemed like he was really confused. Like, dude, I tapped? I think he slept for a second. For just a micro, so just, kind of went out and was on instinct for a second, didn't remember tapping. So I don't think it's because he tapped, obviously. This wasn't a subtle tap that he could later kind of claim I didn't do. This doesn't seem like any kind of trickery to me. I think he legitimately forgot that he tapped. I think he went out for a second. What I noticed about this fight is Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu game was phenomenal. Just transition. I love that kind of game where he wasn't even looking for a guard or anything like that. It was leg attack, neck attack, arm attack, all these things. He was just chaining his attacks together, and it kept Kevin Lee on the defensive. Although I thought Kevin Lee had some great moments on the feet, had some great takedowns. He started slowing down, started the second round. Looked sharp in round one, but I really thought Kevin Lee, especially on the feet, really looked much more vulnerable in the second round. And part of it is, to me, might be the weight cut, might be the lack of coming in right, prepared perfectly. And it might be costing him physically because he really seemed to slow down in the second round. But that guillotine was wicked. And it is hard to finish a guillotine in that position where he kind of had full guard, but was around Kevin Lee's leg. Then he goes half guard and finishes. That is tough to do. That is not an easy guillotine. And to catch a savvy veteran like Kevin Lee, that's real guts. And the problem is Kevin Lee has missed weight multiple times. It's always been an issue that has dogged him. But I think the Rafael dos Anjos fight showed he's going to have trouble with bigger guys. 170 is full of guys who can out-wrestle Kevin Lee. 155 is not. So I think he'd be giving up too many tactical advantages going up to 170. I really believe that. But if you can't make 55, what are you doing? He's in a very tough spot.
Do you think that Kevin Lee could have just been startled that when he regained consciousness that Mike Beltran didn't have his handlebar mustaches sweeping the bottom of the cage because they were tucked in? Because it startled me initially. Every time he tucks them in, I get taken back.
It always takes a second to go, dude, did he cut him? Like, no, he has him tucked in. He's good. He's cool. He's still Mike Beltran.
I would love for him to dye them pink for like breast cancer awareness come October. I just feel like it would be a good touch. As far as what we've seen now, and we mentioned earlier, Oliveira, I mean, geez, 7-fight win streak. I think he broke or tied the record for most finishes. This guy just turned 30, 10 years in the UFC. Is it time that we have to see him fight for a title? To ask has he earned it is a rhetorical question. Is it time that he just cannot be denied any longer?
To say he cannot be denied, you are underestimating the star power of everyone else at 55. That's the problem. Any other division, he's a shoo-in. He's an absolute shoo-in. But we don't know if Khabib versus Ferguson is going to happen at all if it's going to be
Tony,
delayed.
Don't start. Don't start. Do not start.
I will not. I will not.
Don't start it. The MMA gods listen too.
And then we have Conor McGregor waiting in the wings, right? We have Justin Gaethje. Any other division, Charles Oliveira's next in line, maybe second. The problem is this division is stacked with talent, stacked with big names. And to lure any of the guys I just mentioned into a fight with Charles Oliveira would take force majeure. It would take an act of God. Because if I'm Justin Gaethje, I don't want to be anywhere near that guy. And from what I heard, he turned down a fight with Charles Oliveira in Brazil. So Conor McGregor wants anything to do with that ground game? I don't think so. No way. No way. So the issue is he's just, as far as popularity and drawing ability and pay-per-view sales, he's the low man on the totem pole, despite all he's accomplished.
Is this the same Jimmy Smith that told me that he used to think Kevin Lee might be the guy that gave Khabib problems? I will tell you that he just made Kevin Lee look like an easy out. And you're telling me that he needs to do more? I don't know what more he can do, Jimmy.
There isn't. There isn't. It isn't about him and his skill set. I think he can beat anyone in the division. I really do. But you can't deny what I'm saying about the star power of the people in front of him. Justin Gaethje deserves a title shot and is denied. Think Charles Oliveira leapfrogs him? Probably not, unless they fight, which, once again, if I'm Justin Gaethje's people, I don't want him anywhere near Charles Oliveira. So, show me that spot where he can slip in. Unless somebody gets hurt or injured or something weird happens. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. He's got to keep doing what he's doing. But it's just a longer road than it would be in any other division at any other time in any division. Because right now, 55 is just stacked and full of stars. So it's tough to find that way in.
Well, certainly right now, as a whole, I think we are at a point where there are a lot more questions than answers, not just in one division. But what I will offer to you guys is as soon as anything happens where we start to get news or clarity or anything along those lines, you can count on me and Jimmy to come back and discuss it with you. We appreciate you guys checking this out. We hope we played a little bit of part in getting your weekend back to normal, and we will be back very shortly with more commentary. Part in getting your weekend back to normal, and we will be back very shortly with more commentary.